Today, we are diving deep into the book of Exodus, specifically those ancient laws that can feel, well, a little intimidating. But based on a really insightful analysis, we're going to see that there's a hidden blueprint inside these rules, one that suggests they're not at all what they seem on the surface. So let's get right into it.
I mean, really think about it. When someone says divine law, what's the first feeling, the first word that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's probably something a bit heavy. And you're not alone in that. The sermon we're exploring here points out that this is actually a super common reaction. We tend to see these laws as this massive weight, a source of anxiety, or just a long, long list of ways we're probably failing. It feels like an impossible standard to ever live up to.
So, that really brings us to the main question we're tackling. Are these ancient rules just a crushing burden designed to keep people in line? Or could they be something else entirely? Could they be a blueprint for a better way to live together?
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The argument here is that our negative feelings, that sense of pressure, it doesn't come from the laws themselves. It comes from us. We feel that way because we're missing the single most important piece of the puzzle, the context. The key isn't buried in the rules. It's in the story that comes before the rules.
Right. So to really get this, we've got to rewind the tape. We can't just drop into the middle of a legal code and expect it to make any sense. We have to look at what happened to these people right before a single law was ever given.
And this lays out the sequence perfectly. Step 1, the people were slaves. They were brutally oppressed in Egypt. Step 2, they are dramatically set free. And then, and only then, Step 3, the laws are given. You see, the order here changes everything.
So here's the big takeaway. This isn't a list of things you have to do to earn your freedom or to get on God's good side. No way. That gets the story completely backwards. The people were already free. These laws were given to them as a guide, kind of like a roadmap on how to actually live as a free community, and crucially, how not to recreate the same oppressive system they just escaped from.
Okay, so if you've ever tried to read through all these laws, you know there are hundreds of them. They cover everything from property lines to how you treat your neighbors. It can seem really complex and kind of overwhelming. But the analysis we're looking at boils it all down to one foundational, incredibly simple idea.
That's it. That's the core principle. Think of it as the operating system for the entire society. At the end of the day, every rule comes back to this. Don't cause another person to lose what is rightfully theirs. And that's not just about property. It's about their dignity, their safety, their ability to make a living.
And when you look at it through that lens, you realize this isn't some random list of do's and don'ts at all. It's a deliberate design, a blueprint for a community that's built on justice and mutual respect, a society where the goal is to protect each other, not to get ahead by exploiting each other.
And where this principle, do not cause others loss, really shows its teeth, where it becomes the most powerful, is in how these laws consistently treat the most vulnerable people in that society.
I mean, again and again and again, the text singles out these 4 groups for special protection. Why? Because in the ancient world, foreigners, widows, orphans, and the poor had zero power. They had no social safety net. They were the ones most likely to be taken advantage of. So these laws basically build a fortress of protection around them.
And this is the most profound part of the whole thing. The law doesn't just say, hey, protect the vulnerable because it's the right thing to do. It gives a reason, and that reason is rooted in empathy. It commands the people to remember their own suffering, to remember what it felt like to be powerless, to be a foreigner, and to let that memory, that pain, drive them to act with compassion toward others. It's incredible.
And this table just shows you how it works in real life. Take that rule about a worker's cloak. If a poor guy gives you his only cloak as collateral for a loan, you have to give it back to him by sunset. Why? Because it's probably the only thing he has to keep him warm at night. The law forces you to see the human being behind the financial transaction. It's radical empathy, written down as law.
So all of this brings us to the ultimate goal. This whole legal system, this blueprint, it's not just about controlling what people do on the outside. It's about shaping something much, much deeper.
The sermon really concludes that the end game here is to create a community whose collective heart starts to reflect the character of the one who gave them the law in the first place. So it's not about ticking off boxes on some moral checklist to prove how good you are. It's about a deep internal transformation of a whole society to become more just, more compassionate, and more life-giving for everyone inside it.
So, in the end, you've got two completely different ways to see the law. You can see it as a burden, just a bunch of external rules that create pressure, something you do to try and earn favor. Or you can see it as a blueprint, as the reflection of an internal change, a guide to a truly flourishing life, and a way to say thank you for the freedom you've already been given. It's a total fundamental shift in perspective.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. What if we've been looking at law all wrong? What if its real purpose isn't to control us, but to open our eyes, to reveal the kind of beautiful, just, and compassionate world that we actually have the power to build together?